please. Just 5 minutes, I promise. You have to see this.
5 minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's all I need.
Fine.
What if the most dangerous moment of your life looks completely ordinary? What if the warning isn't loud or violent or obvious, but subtle, polite, almost forgettable? Because that's how this begins. Not with a scream, not with a chase, but with a pause, a hesitation, a single step that never gets taken. This is where the title matters, Caught on CCTV. Because this case doesn't rely on memory or rumors or conflicting stories. It relies on video, cold, silent, unblinking. A camera that doesn't feel fear but captures it anyway. And the thumbnail text, "Her Last Moments," isn't metaphorical, it's literal. The footage shows the final seconds when she still had a choice and how that choice was taken from her. The hallway is narrow, beige walls, cheap carpet, the kind of place you've walked through 100 times without thinking. She's standing outside an apartment door, her body angled slightly away from it. That detail matters. People don't angle away from places they want to enter. Her hand hovers near her phone. Her shoulders are tight. She hesitates. You can almost feel it, that internal debate we've all had. Don't be rude, don't overreact, it's probably nothing. Behind the door is a man she barely knows, a neighbor, someone she's seen in passing, someone who looks normal enough to not trigger alarms. That's how predators survive, by blending in, by feeling familiar, by exploiting the social rules that tell us politeness is safer than instinct. The camera captures the door opening. He steps into frame. At first, there's a smile, casual, disarming, and then something changes. Midway through the footage, there's a moment investigators later labeled Frame 62, one single frame where the mask slips. The smile disappears, his eyes harden, his posture shifts, his hand moves, not violently, not dramatically, but with intent. A hand on her hip, pressure on her shoulder, just enough force to guide, to control, to make resistance look like cooperation. And here's the disturbing contradiction. If you're not looking for it, you'll miss it. Police did, multiple times. They reviewed this footage and said they saw nothing suspicious, nothing criminal, nothing wrong. But her mother watched it once and knew immediately. Because mothers recognize fear even when it's silent. By the next frame, she's inside the apartment. The door closes, and that's it. No struggle on camera, no screams, just absence. 3 days later, her body would be found 216 miles away, stuffed inside a suitcase in rural Georgia. But all of that comes later. Right now, everything hinges on this hallway, on this moment, on a decision she didn't fully get to make. And the question you should be asking isn't, why didn't she run? It's this: how many times have you ignored the same feeling because nothing technically looked wrong? Because to understand how this happened, how a predator hid in plain sight, you first have to understand the woman standing in that hallway and why she never imagined she was about to disappear. And that story is where the real danger begins. Predators don't usually attack chaos. They wait for patterns. And Chloe's life was built on routine. She was 22 years old, quietly strong, the kind of person people trusted without hesitation. She worked nights at a crisis helpline, hours spent talking strangers off the edge, listening to fear, grief, panic. While most people slept, Chloe absorbed other people's darkness and carried it home with her. Every Thursday night after her shift, she went to the same place, her best friend's apartment. Same building, same floor, same routine, week after week. It was safe, familiar, predictable. That predictability mattered more than anyone realized. because someone else had noticed it too. On November 22nd, Chloe followed the routine like always. She finished work, drove across town, walked into the apartment complex she'd visited dozens of times before. Nothing felt unusual until she reached the door. Her friend wasn't home. That alone should have been harmless. Plans change. People get delayed. Chloe tried calling. No answer. Her phone battery was low, nearly dead. Another small detail, the kind that never feels important until it's the only thing that matters. So she waited in the hallway. This is where routine becomes vulnerability. She didn't leave because she expected her friend any minute. She didn't knock on other doors because that felt awkward. She didn't call for help because nothing had technically happened yet. This is the gray zone predators depend on, the space between discomfort and danger. Apartment 306 was nearby. The man inside had seen her before, not just once, not casually, repeatedly, same night, same time, same pattern. To him, Chloe wasn't a stranger, she was a schedule. Later, investigators would discover something chilling. 2 weeks earlier, another woman reported a nearly identical encounter. Same building, same approach, same polite conversation, same attempt to isolate. That woman escaped, barely, and no one connected the dots. Because routine hides danger better than darkness ever could. When the door to apartment 306 opened, Chloe didn't see a monster. She saw a neighbor, a familiar face in a familiar place, someone who looked like he belonged there because he did. And that's the lie that cost her everything. By the time the hallway camera captured her hesitation, the trap had already been set days, maybe weeks earlier. The CCTV didn't record the stalking, it didn't record the planning, it didn't record the moments he watched her walk by and learned her rhythm. But the footage doesn't need to, because what happens next proves this wasn't random, it was rehearsed. And once Chloe crossed that threshold, once the door closed, routine turned into captivity. What happened inside apartment 306 wasn't caught on camera, but the evidence left behind tells a story far more disturbing than anything the CCTV could show. And that's where this case takes a darker turn. She wasn't supposed to be there that night. Chloe's routine had protected her for months. Same drive, same building, same friend. Predictability made it feel safe. But routines only work when nothing breaks them. And that night, everything did. Her phone dying wasn't dramatic. No warning sign, no panic. Just a black screen at the worst possible moment. No missed call notifications, no text from Maya explaining she had already left. No way to know she was standing alone on that landing for no reason at all. That's when opportunity found her. Andre didn't rush. He didn't grab her. He didn't block the stairs. He did what human psychologists always do. He blended in. He spoke calmly. He smiled. He offered help instead of force. He framed it as a favor, not a demand. 5 minutes. That phrase mattered. It made the situation feel temporary, safe, reversible. 5 minutes isn't dangerous. 5 minutes isn't commitment. 5 minutes is polite. But Chloe's body knew better. Her feet angled toward the stairs. Her weight shifted back. Her hand tightened around her purse strap. These weren't random movements. They were hesitation. They were survival instincts firing quietly, the way they always do before the mind catches up. Andre saw it. That's when he closed the distance. The touch was brief, casual enough to explain away, long enough to establish control. A hand on the hip, pressure on the shoulder, not violent yet, just enough to redirect her path. And in that moment, something changed behind his eyes. The smile vanished, not slowly, instantly. That was the real Andre Sterling, not the neighbor, not the friendly guy in the hallway, the version of him that only appeared once the door was close enough to close. The camera captured it. One frame, less than 2 seconds. Then they were gone. For the next 3 days, Chloe's absence was explained away by policy and procedure. Adults disappear sometimes, phones die, people change plans, and the video, according to police, showed nothing criminal, just a conversation, just a woman walking inside. But mothers don't need policies to recognize danger. Sarah didn't watch the footage like an investigator. She watched it like someone who knew her daughter's body language better than anyone else alive. She didn't see consent. She saw reluctance. She saw fear being overridden by politeness. And she was right. By the time the truth surfaced, Chloe had already fought for air in total darkness, scratched at plastic walls, used every last ounce of strength trying to escape a space designed to be final. The violence didn't begin in Georgia. It began the second she crossed that doorway. The system didn't fail because there was no evidence. It failed because the evidence didn't look violent enough. Andre Sterling didn't rely on force at first. He relied on doubt, on social conditioning, on the idea that danger only counts when it's loud and obvious. And for 3 critical days, that worked. Until it didn't. The trial would later prove what that single frame already showed, that Chloe never walked in freely, that the attack began immediately, that 5 minutes was never real, and that one small hesitation was the last chance she ever had to walk away. Andre didn't panic after she disappeared. That's what investigators would later say stood out the most. There were no frantic calls, no sudden mistakes, no visible cracks. Everything he did afterward was deliberate, slow, controlled, practiced. The kind of calm that doesn't come from innocence, but from planning. Within hours of Chloe entering that apartment, every trace of chaos had been erased. Bleach masked the smell. Surfaces were wiped clean. Nothing obvious remained. If police had entered that night, they would have found exactly what Andre wanted them to find. Nothing. And that was the point. Predators like Andre don't depend on violence alone. They depend on systems that hesitate, on rules that delay, on assumptions that favor normalcy over intuition. When Sarah first knocked on his door, he was ready. He already had a story. Chloe stopped by. Her phone was dead. He was being helpful. They talked. She left. Simple, clean, plausible, and most importantly, calm. Calm disarms suspicion. When Sarah asked to come inside, he refused politely, not aggressively, not defensively, just enough to maintain control. And because nothing looked broken, nothing smelled wrong, nothing screamed emergency, the system sided with the appearance of normal. The video didn't show a crime. The apartment didn't show a struggle. The neighbor didn't look dangerous. So the clock kept ticking. What finally broke the illusion wasn't technology. It wasn't procedure. It was pattern. Another woman, another hallway, the same words. Just 5 more minutes. That's when the story collapsed. Because coincidences don't repeat themselves with the same script. Emily's account turned suspicion into structure. It showed intent. It showed rehearsal. It showed that Chloe wasn't chosen randomly. She was chosen because she was alone, polite, and momentarily disconnected from the people who could protect her. And once investigators stopped asking whether Andre could be responsible and started asking whether he had done this before, everything changed. The apartment was searched again. Not casually, not quickly. This time they weren't looking for clean surfaces. They were looking for what cleaning couldn't erase. And when the lights went out and the forensic chemicals activated, the truth lit up the walls. Blood doesn't disappear, it only hides. The door frame glowed first, then the walls, then the floor. Handprints, smears, impact patterns. A fight that lasted seconds, but told a story of immediate violence, of an attack that began the instant the door closed, of 5 minutes that never existed. Every glowing mark rewrote the narrative. Chloe hadn't stayed, she hadn't talked, she hadn't changed her mind. She had been ambushed. And suddenly, that single frame from the security footage wasn't ambiguous anymore. It was the beginning. By the time Andre realized the story was unraveling, it was already too late. The phone records came first. They didn't scream guilt on their own, but stacked together, they formed a map no innocent man could explain away. A late-night drive, cash withdrawal spaced just far enough apart to avoid attention, cell towers lighting up in a straight line heading south, then silence, then movement again, right near where the suitcase would later be found. Andre called it stress driving. Investigators called it transport. Because people don't accidentally drive hundreds of miles through the night, stop near rural creek beds, and return home before sunrise, unless they're trying to put distance between themselves and something they don't want found. Then came the suitcase, heavy, scuffed, scratched from the inside. Those marks changed everything. They meant Chloe wasn't already gone when she was placed inside. She fought the dark. She clawed at the walls. She burned oxygen that Andre calculated she wouldn't have. The crime wasn't impulsive. It was logistical. Handcuffs, zip ties, tape, a container designed to conceal and suffocate. This wasn't rage. It was control. When Andre sat in the interrogation room and watched the footage again, frame 62 frozen on the screen, he didn't look confused. He looked bored. That reaction told prosecutors more than any confession ever could. Because innocent people react emotionally when confronted with tragedy. Guilty people react strategically. And Andre did what he always did when pressure arrived. He minimized, denied, detached. He claimed coincidence. He claimed ignorance. He claimed silence. But silence doesn't erase patterns. The trial wasn't about a single moment. It was about repetition. The same words, the same hallway setup, the same calculated friendliness, the same slow removal of choice. The jury didn't need to imagine what happened behind that door. They saw the beginning of it, frame by frame, hand by hand, second by second. When experts explained that Chloe's body angled away toward escape, while Andre's body moved inward, the lie collapsed completely. The footage no longer looked neutral, it looked directional. And once you see direction, you can't unsee intent. Emily's testimony sealed it. Not because she was emotional, not because she was dramatic, but because she survived the same script. 5 minutes. Help. Politeness. Chloe didn't survive it. The verdict didn't shock anyone who had truly watched the evidence. It only confirmed what the camera had already captured in silence. A predator doesn't need force at first. He needs opportunity. He needs hesitation. He needs those 2 seconds where someone doubts their instincts.
Andre lost control the moment the jury saw what Sarah had seen from the start. Not a conversation, a trap.
The courtroom felt heavy with every frame replayed. The security footage played over and over, slowing down the key moments. Every eye trained on frame 62, where the friendly mask dropped and the predatory reality emerged. Experts explained the gestures, the pressure on Chloe's body, the dominance implied in each subtle movement. Every tiny detail mattered, because in this case, small movements were deadly. Then came the forensic evidence. Dr. Rebecca Hayes's work transformed suspicion into undeniable fact. Luminol revealed handprints on the doorframe, smears of blood on the walls, invisible to the naked eye, testified silently to the violence that had occurred within seconds of Chloe stepping inside. Spatter patterns told a story that words could not, of struggle, of resistance, of a life snuffed out while fighting to survive. The suitcase evidence confirmed the horror. Finger scratches etched deep into the lining, fingerprints pressed into plastic, and bruising patterns consistent with handcuffs and zip ties painted a chilling picture. Chloe was conscious, alive, and terrified while trapped in complete darkness. Phone records, toll photos, and metadata triangulated Andre's movements from Charlotte to Georgia in the dead of night. Coincidences stacked to the point of impossibility. Every claim of innocence unraveled under the weight of evidence meticulously gathered. Witnesses like Emily Rosen provided context and pattern. Her encounter with Andre 2 weeks earlier mirrored Chloe's last moments. Same words, same script, same manipulation. 5 minutes promised, a polite compliance requested, a refusal ignored. The defense attempted to argue circumstantial doubt, but the combination of frame-by-frame analysis, forensic science, and corroborated pattern left the jury with no reasonable uncertainty. Finally, the jury deliberated. 6 days of reflection on the weight of evidence, the trajectory of Chloe's final moments, and the premeditation evident in Andre's actions. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous: guilty on all charges: first-degree murder, aggravated kidnapping, and evidence tampering. Andre Sterling's sentence was life in prison without parole. No leniency, no possibility of release. Justice, slow but absolute, had been delivered. Sarah Vance, Chloe's mother, stood at the sentencing, her voice trembling but resolute. She spoke of Chloe's dreams, her kindness, her devotion to helping others, and the tragic loss imposed by someone who exploited politeness for cruelty. Her final words echoed as a warning: trust your instincts. That fleeting hesitation, the 2.3 seconds Chloe almost walked away, was the difference between life and death. And sometimes, in those seconds, the world fails to intervene. Chloe's story was a harsh reminder. Danger often smiles, appears normal, and preys on hesitation. But awareness, vigilance, and trust in one's instincts can be the difference between survival and tragedy. Frame 62, 2.3 seconds, a lifetime lost, a lesson carved into the consciousness of everyone who saw it.